Well, hello, everybody. We're back here. It is the Conor McGilligan channel. What is going on in your world? Let us know in the comment section below. We're back here, and you can see already we've started, but we're doing the table predictor. Let us know your thoughts in the section below. Am I way off? Am I on the money? Let's get into it. So I've started off with these lads at the top of the pile. Look, it's no surprise. I think Vert's coming in. I think Frimpong coming in. Kirkez coming in. I think the potential of Isak coming in. Ekatike. This is just an absolute super squad. It's a super squad. I think it'll really find its feet. It's going to be interesting with Verts where he plays. He's going to play in a 10. He's been playing in a false 9 in pre-season. I think Frimpong's almost looked early Sterling-esque as well on that right-hand side, which I don't think is a negative whatsoever. I think getting to that byline, putting the ball into the box for an Ekatike, for an Isak will be unbelievable. I do think the Isak deal will get done, and when that gets done, pray for the Premier League. That's all I'll say. So I'm going with Liverpool to win the league. What do you guys think? Right, everybody. Number 2, I have gone Arsenal. I think that it's been very overblown when it comes to Arsenal about, you know, their window. I think they've had a really strong window, if I'm honest with you. And you look at the players that they've brought in. I think Gyökeres is going to be a really good signing. I don't care if you score 70-odd goals, you're going to be able to convert in the Premier League, in my opinion, especially with the facilitators in and around him. When you look at Saka, I do think there's a player in Martinelli. I think Martinelli struggled without a centre forward, to be quite honest with you, which they've struggled with throughout the entire season. Obviously, Trossard is going to be moving on. It's going to be fascinating to see whether or not they do something out there as well. But I think Arsenal have been building a little bit more consistency and a little bit more cohesion as well between Gabriel and obviously Saliba. I just think overall, when you look at Arsenal's package so far this season, you know, Zubimendi coming in as well, and Mosquera. I think Mosquera is going to be a little bit of centre-back backup, but they've needed that for years. I think that'll work. I think he can work on that left-hand side very, very nice. He could even work in a back three if Arteta wanted to just blow the, you know, the, oh my God, I'm doing this sphere. But yeah, I think Zubimendi coming in will be a decent sign. I think he's been a little bit overrated by people. I think he'll come in, he'll tick things over. He'll be a decent Partey replacement. But I think the big one is going to be Gyökeres up front and just getting on the end of some of these, you know, some of these crosses into the box that Saka puts in there. You know, we've seen for England that Saka can just supply Kane all the time with exceptional crosses into the box to keep him fit. I think Gyökeres is going to bang. I've got Arsenal in second. And obviously we have to have a little bit of a caveat here as well, everybody. I think maybe Arsenal bring in an Eze, which they're still rumoured to be looking at. If they bring in someone like him, it's going to be an outstanding window, in my opinion. Slaloming in off that left-hand side, causing real problems. I think defensively his off-the-ball work is very good as well, Eze, which is overrated. But for number 3, I am going to go with Manchester City. I think they've brought in a lot of really good signings. I think Ryan Cherky, I think Aït-Nouri as well coming in. I think Reinder's just at the base. Rodri been in there as well, been back. Haaland looks a little bit revitalized and refreshed after his hollybobs. Listen, I think they're going to be a real threat this season. For it all to just work, though, in the first season and for it all to hit the ground running, I think they're just going to be a little bit off, to be quite honest with you. I think Arsenal might pit them by a point or something like that. I think it'll go right to the wire, but I've got City in 3rd this season. What do you guys think? Right, guys, 4th, we've gone with the club world champions. We've gone with Chelsea. I think they'll have another good season this season. It was a bit inconsistent last time out, wasn't it? The first half of the season, you thought they were going to win the flipping league, but they tailed off a little bit. Additions this season, Gittins, Pedro, Liam Delap, I think is going to add real quality and depth in there as well, and it feels like Chelsea are going to bring in another big one before the end of the window, potentially a centre-back, who knows? But I do really like the addition of João Pedro. I think in the club championship, he looked unbelievable. So skillful and so balanced when it came to him across that front line. I really, really like João Pedro. I think he's going to add an element of elegance to that front line and a potent forward as well. So that's what I'm predicting. And I honestly think when it comes to Arsenal, City and Chelsea, it's going to be a lot closer in terms of points tally. And I think you could move those 3 around, to be honest with you. Now, this one might be a little bit controversial. I've got Newcastle in 5th. Now, I'm still not sure about this, but I think if they sort the end of the window out, if they're still able to bring in some big bodies, Newcastle, apparently they weren't supposed to be strung by PSR this season, so I don't really know what's going on there. But even if an Isak leaves and they're able to bring in a Benjamin Sesko, if they're able to spread that wealth throughout the side a little bit, bring in 4 or 5 new additions across, you know, the centre-back department and the midfield department, I think overall that midfield is probably the best, if not one of the best in the division when it comes to Joe Linton, when it comes to Sandro Tonali and Bruno Guimaraes. But I think overall there needs to be a little bit more depth in that midfield. Longstaff's moved on. Willock doesn't seem to be that sort of focal point that maybe he once was in terms of that box-to-box midfielder, an option in there. Miley coming in, I think he's a really good player to have in there, but he's still a kid. So I think that back line needs bolstering as well. When you look at Sven Botman, they might as well start calling him Svenathan Botgate. He's that replica of Jonathan Woodgate, isn't he, in terms of injuries. Going forward is going to be primary concern there, but I do think Sunderland, especially with that home advantage, The European competition is obviously going to be a little bit of a caveat for Newcastle, but I do think overall, if they're able to bring in players, it is 30th of July when I'm recording this, they're able to bring in players 1st of September, you know, still a little bit of a period to get some players in. If they're able to do that, bring in 4 or 5, I've just got a feeling that the base and the framework of Newcastle is still very strong in my personal opinion, and they can still develop on that with some elite players coming in, and they might keep hold of Isak. Who knows? Well, 6, everybody, I've gone with Aston Villa. I think the exact same place as they finished last window. Obviously, they missed out on the Champions League, which was mental after them losing to Man United on the final day. What are you doing, lads? But obviously, they're still going to be in Europe. The squad is going to be stretched a little bit. There is conversation right now about Man United potentially going in for Ollie Watkins, which would be a little bit of a blow for Aston Villa, but they're quite close when it comes to PSR. They've not had the most active window. We've all seen that, but once again, I still think they've got the nucleus to really perform, Villa, so I'm still going with them in 6. Now, this one's interesting when it comes to Spurs, because I think Spurs have still got the possibility of doing something maybe in that central attacking midfield role after the Morgan Gibbs-White deal did fall apart. But overall, I do like Tottenham's squad. I like the addition of Kevin Danso last season. I think Mohamed Kudus coming in is going to give them a dimension. And I like Thomas Frank. He's coming with his assistant manager as well. It feels like he's brought all of his team from Brentford, where he was absolutely punching above his weight, in my opinion. There's a variance in formation, a variance in style. And I think Tottenham are going to be good this year. I think Tottenham are going to be decent. I do think there is, obviously, with them finished, what was it, 15th, 16th last season, they're going to elevate. But I don't think I'm going to put them in the top 6 as of yet. But it is very dependent, once again, on what happens in the rest of the window. 8th, I'm going to go Bournemouth. They finished 9th last season. I just see them once again as this absolute output machine at the minute. Evan Nielsen, Justin Cliver, Semenya. I just think that, you know, keeping hold of him has been so important. I actually thought he'd have been a bit of a target for Tottenham Hotspur. We'll have to wait and see if that develops. But bringing in Georgi Petrovic from Chelsea, I think, is an absolute masterstroke. Made no errors last season for Strasbourg. A really important signing for Bournemouth there. And obviously then bringing in Adrian Truffert from Stade Rennes was an outrageous signing, one that went under the radar, as so many Bournemouth signings do. I think it's one of them, once again, where Bournemouth are going to be strong. They're going to cause a lot of upsets. They've got flair. They've got a very good manager as well, and they're strong at the back. I think Bournemouth are going to do well again. 8th position for me. Number 9, I've gone with Manchester United and Buemo coming in, Matthias Cunha. I think there is going to be an improvement with Man United next season. I do think that. And then it's going to be the conversation of, can they afford Benjamin Sesko? Can they afford Ollie Watkins? We know they need that sort of out-and-out number 9 profile right now. Still think there is a lot of work for Amorim to do. Is he going to last the entire season? I'm not 100% sure, but I think there is definitely going to be a development on Tottenham last year and Man United last year as well. I've got them in 9th. Now I've got Brighton in 10th. They've done it again. They've gone out for some unknowns, or some relative unknowns as well. Kostoulis is coming from the Greek division, 35 million euros, 18 years of age. Is he going to be almost starting? Obviously, we've seen Evan Ferguson go out. This is almost like a bit of a like-for-like replacement in terms of a profile coming in. Maxime de Kuyper coming in as well from Club Brugge is a very, very decent signing. Probably similar in terms of profile, like Adrian Truffert at Bournemouth. Very good player, good at getting up and down that left-hand side, good in the duels as well. I think de Kuyper is a really excellent signing once again for Brighton. Tom Watson coming in. We'll wait and see on Watson, how that'll develop. Will he be featuring this season? I'm not 100% sure. And then obviously Diego Coppola, who they got in very, very early, which looks like some really good business as well. They've actually activated the free transfer market as well, with Boskagli coming in from the Dutch league as well. I think Wolves will do really well this season. I think there was a real development with Pereira towards the back end of last season. I think there was a structure. I think it had evidently evolved. Even when Matthias Cunha had left the side, I think Wolves won 5 games in 7 towards the back end of the season. The double pivot in front of the defence of Andre and Gomez is a very, very good double pivot, in my personal opinion. I think one player that goes completely under the radar in the Premier League is Strand Larsen up top as well, who I thought was a brilliant focal point for them. They're probably one of the only sides in the bottom half who've got a striker, of which a lot of the top teams turn around and are quite envious of. I think he brings players into proceedings. I think he's good on the counter-attack as well. I think he's got a good, efficient finishing rate. I really like Strand Larsen. And if they add to that, Fer Lopez coming in from Celta Vigo was a good signing. Arias coming in as well. I know Wolves fans are maybe a little bit worried about the bolstering of the squad overall, but I think Wolves will do well this season. I think Pereira's a decent manager, and I think they'll go all the way up to 11. Palace in 12th, don't have much to say about them, really. I think there's going to be a consistency. It's going to be mad to see if Eze does leave and go to Arsenal or something like that, but Mateta up top. I think they've got a lot of structure as well when it comes to, you know, Adam Wharton in that midfield. I just think he's such a good orchestrator, conductor. Is he going to evolve again this season? Borna Sosa coming in for Crystal Palace. Looks like an okay signing. in, but I do think they need to bolster the ranks a little bit more. Maybe potentially even another left winger coming in or another right winger coming in when it comes to Palace. But I think they'll do okay this season. I think especially if they keep hold of Eze, but we'll have to wait and see. But I've got them in 12th. Just can't see David Moyes going down. The new stadium, I think there's going to be a really good atmospheric setting there week in, week out, or every other week and week out for Everton. I can't see them going down. I think Moyes is going to be the big differential there, as he always is. They can bring in some big players towards the back end of the window as well. I know they're still holding out hope for Malik Fofana, and they're trying to convince him. They get him in, it would be a massive signing. Him and Iliman and Jai would be a lovely little partnership. Obviously, Tieno Barry coming in, I think it's a really top signing as well for Everton. A lot of the top clubs in Europe were looking at him. I think Everton will be absolutely fine. I've got them defensively pretty assured this season as well. Got them in 13th. Fulham in 14th. I think there'll be a slight drop off for Fulham, but I think, when you're looking at Raul Jimenez, I think he's 35 this season. It depends if they keep hold of Rodrigo Muniz, but if Ricardo Pepe comes in from PSV, that would be a really decent sign in my opinion as well. Romelu as well, they're looking at as a centre forward. But I think overall, the likes of Harry Wilson, there's apparently been conversations about João Palhinha potentially coming back as well, which would be a massive signing. But I'm still convinced on Fulham. I think Fulham are a good side. They've got a good calibre of player. Calvin Bassey, I think, is a really good centre-back for them as well. So, yeah, I think Fulham will be okay. I think they've got depth in all the right reasons. Anthony Robinson I think he's a top left back as well, who they've managed to keep hold of again. So, yeah, I think Fulham will be absolutely fine in 14th. Igor Jesus, I think, could be a really good signing once again for Nottingham Forest, coming in for around about 20 million quid. But as well, Dan Ndoye, I think that'll be a really, really top signing for Forest. I don't think it'll be as good a season with Europe being involved as well. They need to bolster up that squad. But you look at Marinakis, and he's never shy in throwing that cash around. Keeping hold of Morgan Gibbs-White was absolutely unequivocally important for Forest. I think it's going to be interesting to see his partnership with the ex-Bologna man now, Dan Ndoye. And it looks like Forest beat top clubs to his signature as well. So that'll be a real feather in their cap. I mentioned before that I love Elliot Anderson. I think in there he's really good when it comes to the transition. I think Forest will be decent this season. I just think that European competition might drag them down just a little bit. I've got them. So at 16th, everybody, I've got Leeds United, and I do think Leeds will avoid relegation this season. I think it's going to be a top season for the Whites. I think they've brought in some really good profiles. I think Leeds have come up with good profiles as when it comes to Nonto, when it comes to Ramazani and James. I think they're effectively ready-made for Premier League football and the style of football that Leeds are going to be playing on that counter-attack. I think when you kind of look as well at the back line, Leeds have reinforced really well with Euro 2024 superstar Jakobiol, bringing another player as well in Sebastian Bornau at the back as well. And then you look at the midfield, Anton Stack coming in, who's been one of the better midfielders in the Bundesliga for the past 2 or 3 seasons now. Longstaff coming in is the Premier League experience people talk about. Keeping hold of Tanaka was big as well. And Ethan Ampadu as well, who in my opinion is a Premier League player. Leeds need to sort of centre forward, but so far I'm pretty encouraged by the recruitment. So I've got Leeds in 16th. Then I've got Sunderland in 17th, which might spike up some people. I think Sunderland have done some outrageously good business this window. The one that stands out for me is Xhaka, obviously, but I think the other one that stands out for me is Habib Diarra. I'm not too convinced on Lefay. I know a lot of Sunderland fans are keen on him, and he could prove me wrong. But I think the top signings this window have been in the midfield for Sunderland. I think they've been really top signings, and the only reason I don't put them above Leeds right now is just maybe that inexperience with a lot of the signings. Talby, a young lad. You look at Adingra, 19, 20, Diarra, 21, Siddiqui, 20. The new goalkeeper, I think, is 21 as well. So it's just a lot of youth, and you're asking them to hit the ground running very, very quickly. But I do think Sunderland will stay up. I think Sunderland, when you look at their ownership, they spent 140 million quid so far. I think they could go again, I think they could go again in January if needs be, and all that sort of stuff. But they've got a really good start to the campaign as well. I think the first 8 or 9 games, they're not coming up against anyone in the top 6. So I think Sunderland are going to be in a really good spot this season. I think the difference between Leeds and Sunderland is Leeds are trying to bring more experienced players in because they've already got quite a bit of, in my opinion anyway, youth. Sunderland have already got youth, but look to be adding sort of youth but quality in there as well, and maybe with the sort of vision ahead, if they were to go down, they've got a good sell-on clause there. I think Sunderland and Leeds United will survive. I've got West Ham going down. I think under Graham Potter, I wouldn't be that excited if I was a West Ham fan. I'd be slightly worried, if I'm honest with you. I think the squad composition is interesting this season. I think the signing of the loss of Kudus will put them in a real predicament this season, in my personal opinion. opinion. I think there's a lot of conversation when it comes to output, when it comes to Mohamed Kudus and maybe what he did and what he didn't do. But I think it's all about attracting players. I think Kudus was the main man really when it came to attracting players, freeing up a little bit of space for Jared Bowen. Bowen is the thing that the person that potentially keeps West Ham up. I think it is kind of looking at that. And even when I was watching the Man United West Ham game the other day in the preseason friendly, it's all going through Jared Bowen. So if they can keep him fit, the captain fit, then you never know. But I just think West Ham are going to need more than that. I think they need an attacker. I think there's conversations at this moment in time about potentially bringing Callum Wilson in. I think they need a better player than that. I don't think you can rely on Fulkrug and Antonio and Bowen as your output. I think they've got to go a little bit higher than that. I don't know if they will go higher than that. Graham Potter, I'm not convinced with at all. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Lucas Plaqueta as well. But for me, West Ham are going to be in a little bit of trouble this season. I've got them going down in 18th. Right, guys, in 19th, I've then got Brentford. Now, Kelleher coming in, Kiedi coming in at right back as well. I think they're really good signings for Brentford, but I think there's bigger problems. You look at the output that they had. Visser is effectively not playing for them now. He's on strike. He wants to leave. Looks like he's going to force through a move at one point, or at least he's not going to sign a new contract. Could that be a little bit turbulent with his contract ending next season as well? And Buemo moving on, I think, is massive. He's been such a huge part of that Brentford side for such a long period of time. And I've seen content creators, I've seen, oh, they'll just bring in somebody else. But you can't always just bring in your Mbuemos. You can't always just bring in your Vissers. It's not 100% hit rate. I think with Brentford, it's going to be interesting to see how they develop as well with the Thomas Frank situation, moving him on. He's a terrific man, just someone who could vary in terms of styles of play against good and poor opposition. I'm not convinced with the Keith Andrews saga. I don't think that will work. The guy was only brought in not long ago as well. I just don't think that'll work in the Premier League in a transitional season. Losing Frank, losing Mbuemo, losing Visser is huge. It's absolutely massive in my opinion. I think it's been overlooked by a lot of people. And I think they're really going to struggle at this stage. And we know Brentford are a good side. They're very well made up when it comes to the ownership, Matthew Benham. But I could be wrong on this one, but I think they're going to struggle this season. I've got them in 19th. And then bottom of the pile, I have got Burnley. I've just not been that convinced by a lot of the signings. Hartman on the left-hand side, I think, has been a good addition. I'm not convinced by Kyle Walker at all. I don't think that's a good signing. And I'm just not looking at what they've done so far. Marcus Edwards, I think, coming up to the Premier League, that's going to be a little bit of a risk, but he's almost naturally the hallmark signing as well. Jaden Anthony be there on a permanent. Zian Fleming be there on a permanent. I think they need a forward. I think they need an out-and-out forward, as a lot of the promoted sides do, Sunderland and Leeds. But I just don't think when I've looked at their transfer window, there's enough firepower. They've lost CJ Egan-Riley, James Trafford, Josh Brownhill. That is a lot when it comes to the spine of the side. It's a heck of a lot. And Zian Fleming, who wasn't prolific anyway in the Championship, I think it's going to be a real struggle for Burnley. I've got them down in 20th. So guys, let me know what you think. Do you disagree? Do you agree? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm a way off. Fascinated to hear your thoughts, everybody. My name's Conor McGilligan. Make sure you subscribe and like in the video. And we'll see you in a bit.